Hi, I'm Dave English. I'm the community manager for MakerPlace. You may have seen me in the community on Facebook, Instagram, or Sellers Ask Sellers. Those are the places where I engage with all of our sellers, as many of our sellers as I can. So today, I'm here to introduce one of our sellers, Kirsten Helmer. She is the founder of From Tree to Home. She is a maker of laser cut 3D layered art, including but not limited to lake depth maps, topographic maps, golf courses, trail maps, and really any shape and interest that you could think of. She's going to share a snippet of her seller story and a little bit of expertise uh, from her experience as a seller on MakerPlace. Hello, Kirsten.
Hi, Dave.
Thanks for being here. I appreciate your time. So, the best place to start, I think, Kirsten, is always with somebody's sort of origin story or background story. And so, what's your artist or maker seller origin story?
My dad was a tool and die maker, and I have always been not to knock my mom. I love my mom, but a bit of a daddy's girl, in that I've always been a tomboy. And I actually look well. He's 65 now, 67, so I probably don't look just like him anymore. But I always look just like him. I got a bit more hair in my head than him, I think. But so my dad, he was a tool and die maker, and I think I kind of had that in me a little bit. Just the desire to work in my hands. I kind of think like genetically or something, because he never really forced that on that. But as a kid, I'd always help him. He'd be working on cars or something, and I'm always there holding the light or whatever. Um, but then even when I was in high school, I had to take an elective, and I took wood shop. Just out of just I don't know. I was like, this seems interesting. And I ended up being the teacher. I remember he was like, "You are one of the best students I've ever had." He's like, "You've also had the most problems." And I'm like, "Well, you get those problems by doing the advanced stuff."
Right when
But
you try the bigger stuff.
right. But I think even then, like in high school, I'm like, that was like one of my favorite classes was the woodshop class. And I never really quite realized it, but I'm like, there must be a little bit of something in me. I come from a family of all tool and die makers. My grandpa was a tool and die maker. My grandpa and both of his brothers were. So it's a tool
I
and die
love that.
family.
I love that. I'm what you said you're from Detroit, right?
Yeah.
And so they were tool and die for the big three automakers.
Yep.
Your family.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Even if you weren't like necessarily in there in the shop with them as an apprentice, just the influence of seeing them and seeing the tools and the understanding that these people were working in fabrication and making
Right. And he was
has a
always very DIY. Like I mean, he wasn't like building things, but like he was always working on our cars. Like our cars were never going into the shop. If there was something wrong with something in the house, he was fixing it. He was never calling a person. So like he was just always he was doing stuff himself, and definitely passed it on to me. And then even my mom, we'd always bake and we'd cook and stuff with her while we were growing up. She'd have us baking cookies for our classes or whatever, which gave me a little bit more creativity in there as well. And then even I have an aunt, my aunt Rose. Well, she's Aunt Boo Boo, to be clear. When she watches this, she'll be excited to hear Aunt Boo Boo. But she's Aunt Boo
boot.
Boo.
Oh
She
yeah.
she's like always been like a second mother to me. She's just showed up for events and always just been there. And as I get older, I actually have a standing Wednesday morning call with her that I got off with her probably a half hour ago. But and we just sit and we just chit chat and whatever. But she is super into knitting and crocheting, and she's always, and that was my first business, was knitting. It failed. It wasn't super successful. People just didn't want to buy it as much. There's a lot of competition out there. But regardless, just another creative influence in my life. Of She actually had her own cloth envelope business when
Oh,
she was younger. She had to My uncle had made this whole press to make the cloth envelopes and everything, which was really cool. But she had that, and she ran that for a while. So just a lot of creativity, DIY, business running in the family. And my older sister runs her own snowboarding business, so it must be in our blood or genes.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's in all of us. I think human beings, one of the things that helped us survive is our ability to craft and make and build things. Without crocheting goes back to similar skills of early fiber rope making.
Mhm.
Without rope, we would have never crossed the oceans or So our crafting is innate in all of us, and I love the way that it appears in sort of certain. I'm a Pittsburgher, a steel town guy, so the story about the tool and die makers really kind of speaks to me, and I'm guessing so many of us have a pap, grandparent, grandma, whoever, and have with relatable roots. I bet you he had a coffee can filled with bolts and nuts and nails and stuff in
Oh,
his.
I have one.
Yeah, yeah.
I have. So I actually was never planning to start a business. I was pretty bored. I had been working in corporate for, at that point, about 5 years or so. And I was pretty unhappy, just no work-life balance. Being a female data analyst in kind of a male-dominated world wasn't great. I was just overall pretty unhappy, but I was feeling kind of stuck because that's what I got my master's degree in, was data analytics. So I looked up a local makerspace, and because I'd heard about them from Reddit, and I was like, what's this? What's this all about? Maybe I'll find a new hobby or something. And boy, did I not know how that would turn out. So then I talked to somebody and they're like, well, it sounds like you could do what you want to do on the laser cutters. Back in 2016, I had never even heard of a laser cutter, didn't know what it was, had no idea. And I was like, yeah, sure. Took a class. Hilariously ended up meeting one of my best friends there at that class. And then just started kind of making things, small things here and there, like coasters, whatever, for friends, family, just kind of fun. Thought it would be a hobby. If you even asked me when I would turn it into a business or do it full time, I was always like, oh, never. I like a stable paycheck. And then it kind of, once I really learned how to do those lake mats, that was kind of the first. Naturally, I dove in head first, because why do like a simple circular lake when instead I did the Great Lakes and went for 5 at once when I'd never done it before. So, but it all worked out. And once I started doing those, it kind of really took off. And then I just started thinking of all the different things I could do with it. There's a million different types of mats out there. Some people love golf and they don't love lakes. Some people love snowboarding, but not, golf. So I kind of ended up being a jack of all, or Jane of all trades, I guess you could say, in terms of what I can do with the machine. The biggest tip of advice whenever I have any other makers or anybody coming to me has always been, do not be married to your ideas. It does not matter if you like it. It does not matter if you think it's amazing. And it sounds harsh, but if your goal is to do this full time and to sell stuff and nobody's buying it, stop making it. Like, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I
Make
want
it
to. I
yourself,
want to.
hang it on your wall.
I want to jump in right there because I was going to follow it up with, it depends on what your goal is, and you hit the nail on the head there. If your goal is to be a successful business selling as many handmade items
Right.
as you can, it's not harsh. I think it's a reality. Now, if your goal is different than that, that's fine as well.
Right. If it's a business, treat it like a business. If it's a passion, treat it like a passion. If my business is a business, it's a passion too, but at the end of the day, I got to pay my bills. So it's a business. And at the end of the day, I have cut so many designs that I thought would be like great designs and people would buy, and I would bring them to craft shows, or I'd put them online and they just wouldn't sell. So I just stopped making them and sold the last stuff I had, and that was it. I was like, apparently I was wrong on this one.
I think you're lucky to have that all in one package, so to speak. In that I've always had a hard time killing my darlings, so to speak, or like
Right.
being like nobody likes or wants to buy this puppet or thing that I made, but I like it and I'm going to keep making it, and that's fine, for your creative endeavors or passions, but probably not the best business decision. So that analytical background really serves you well.
The other thing would be post, post, post. I know social media sucks. I hate posting on social media. I've personally been meaning to post on my social media pages for the past week. I haven't. But the more eyes that get on your work, the more business you will get. It's a simple math equation. I mean, it's not a guaranteed one, but if if you're posting all over social media, there's a bunch of Facebook groups that'll let you post your work. If you're posting that all over the time, the more you're going to get thousands of people seeing your work. If you don't post at all, nobody's going to see your work and nobody's going to buy from you. So as much as it's not fun and it's generally exhausting to just constantly have to post and market and respond to notifications and comments and whatever, it's also free marketing and it keeps your business afloat. So it would definitely be post all over social media as much as you can and don't be married to your ideas. When I want all my sales to drive to MakerPlace, that is the only link I share, and it's only the affiliate link. I don't even actually know what my non-affiliate link would be, if I'm being honest with you, because I've never shared it. Because why would I? Every time somebody goes through the affiliate link, I get an extra 15%. So sharing my main storefront does nothing extra for me. But, with that being said, another good way to run to use that affiliate link is to generate a sale for your customers. So you say that you are giving them all 15% off and you only share the affiliate link. Well, you get that 15% back, which means that you're breaking even and they're getting a sale.
Those are really good pieces of advice. I'm internalizing them. I work obviously for MakerPlace, as I introduced myself, but in the past I was an individual practitioner artist living full time that way, and posting on social and having a social media following is how I got a lot of my work and sustained myself. The other point, being married to your ideas, I'm not as strong-willed in that category. And you have, again, we're going to touch on that analytical background. So it seems like you can, you can divorce the idea when you need to. One thing that I do, and this might be helpful to sellers who, like me, are like, I can't give up on my puppet. I love it. I'm not going to stop making this one. Is to get somebody else, like proofreading, get somebody else to help you make some of this. I do it all the time, and I'm like, hey, can you help me figure out which one of these I should get rid of?
And sometimes customers even have the best ideas. Like there's been so many times where I've gotten like a request and I end up doing it like it's like the main thing I do. Like my best selling, I don't sell like a ton of coasters, because mine are usually wall art. But like my best selling coasters are literally because a customer asked if I could engrave one of my wall art pieces onto a coaster. And I was like, yeah. And everybody loved them. So now they're my best sellers. So
I should do that. Speed round, speed round, speed round. You can make car noises too if you want, but you don't have to. I have a degree. I have a degree in puppetry, so I'm kind of built for that. All right, speed round question. Speed round question 1. What's the most ridiculous thing you've ever done for your craft?
So this past Christmas, my machine broke down on me, and as a result, I was forced to drive all over the states of like Indiana and Kentucky, using friends' lasers. And then at the very end of this whole ordeal, about December 17th or so, I received a new laser tube to fix my machine, and FedEx cracked it. So that wasn't useful. And I left up to go to Christmas up to Michigan, like 3 or 4 days early. I was going to go cut on my own makerspaces, my old makerspace, the one I joined back in years ago. I was going to use their old lasers. I got there. They were not functional. And thankfully, one of my old friends threw me a line and I could use her machine. But the ridiculous part was probably how my truck looked, because I basically had to throw my entire business in the back of my truck, like everything but the laser, because I needed to be able to still work and like knock these Christmas orders out, but I was doing it 300 plus miles away from home.
I'll tell you what, it does sounds ridiculous, also pretty committed to fulfilling your orders. And that's we're going to call it, I remember you mentioning this previously, the Christmas laser road trip of 24, 300 miles. Speed round question 2. Maybe I'll quit with the sound effects. Maybe not.
I like them.
So, I do too. All right. On the story about the Laser Christmas road trip, you mentioned I-3 Detroit. And I was going to ask you something else, but I'm going to ask you this question instead, because I I think other sellers may find it interesting or like a new concept. What is a maker space?
So this is one of my favorite things to tell people. I love a makerspace because it literally, I kind of like owe my whole life to it to a certain extent, you know? If it wasn't for the makerspace, I'd probably still be in corporate. But they're a giant warehouse with, they vary from makerspace to makerspace, but with pretty much every tool you could ever need to make things. And also they offer classes. They also often have the really, really big machinery that you're not ready to invest in yet. For example, I didn't buy my laser cutter until I was already A, sure I could, you know, make the money back from it, and B, like have the space.
This is speed round question 3. There you go. Perfect. uh, question 3, speed round. Make it yourself or buy it. It's the classic DIY conundrum. Make it yourself or buy it. Salad dressing.
Oh, I'd probably say buy it, but making it yourself would definitely probably taste better and be better for you.
Okay, that's a good answer. Uh, Soap. Make it or buy it.
I hate this because I'm just gonna be saying buy it for all these. I don't have a ton of time. I do like buying soap at art fairs, which is still not making it myself, but it's at least not just buying it.
Yeah, but it's buying handmade soap from somebody who made it. All right, that's a good. You're a good analyst. That was a good cheap move. Uh, Lastly, make it yourself or buy it. Tattoos.
Well, you heard about the tattoo artist, so definitely not make it yourself.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
can barely draw a stick figure, so I don't think I'm going to be drawing anything on myself these days.
yeah, the last one on that's always ridiculous. All right, so let me run the tabulations on your speed rounds. You passed with flying colors. Congratulations. It's a good feeling. Kirsten, I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate your time.